Well, good morning, everybody. We're just waiting for the rest of the attendees to gather, so we'll give it a couple of minutes, and then we'll dive straight into this morning's session.
Hi, Chris. I think that's everybody on now. If you want to start on.
It looks like we've a good number have joined us. So good morning, everyone. I trust you're all well. What we're going to do this morning is take you through the new Power BI connector for Sun, and I'm pleased that I can welcome our partners in crime from Professional Vantage. So we have Andrew Parsons and Shiv, who will be doing the main presentation this morning. Just as a way of introduction, we all know now that one of the most widely used corporate reporting and dashboard tools is Microsoft Power BI. But I don't know if you've ever tried to use it with SunSystems and the Sun database, you will know how complex it is and how time consuming it is to get it all set up. I've been told by many colleagues that it's a bit of a nightmare. But what we've done, working alongside our partners, Professional Advantage, this problem has been solved for you. There's been created a very powerful connector that gives you the automatic access to all of the Sun data. The Sun database structure has all been mapped for you. It has very powerful security. You can control what data is going to be seen and what's going to be used. And almost out of the box is ready for you to use. So we hope that the next 30 to 45 minutes is going to be the most productive you have this week, as we seek to save you a lot of time and energy and allow you to share that Sun data across the wider organization. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Andrew, who's going to dive straight in onto the product. And we'll see how it goes. Any questions you've got, put them in the little the chat box, and we'll try and answer them as we go along. So Andrew, over to you. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much indeed, Chris. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming along today, and I'm sort of excited to be showing this new capability that we're bringing to the market, and it certainly is something that we're finding is accelerating people's adoption of Power BI and enabling things that weren't that easy in the past. So I'm just going to run through a very quick deck, just positioning the product, and I'll hand over to my colleague Shiv, who will show you how it all works and how it hangs together. Obviously, for those of you who know Professional Vantage, we've been working in the SunSystems space for over 30 years now, a very, very long time, and we're a premier development partner for products that add value and extend functionality and capability around the outside of SunSystems. And as part of that, we integrate directly to the SunSystems application and SunSystems database structure. So we have a great deal of knowledge around all of our product set in terms of SunSystems. And this has meant we're able to accelerate and build something that can work very well to extend that visibility into Power BI. So we have quite a few different areas of solution. However, the Power BI connector sits in our business intelligence group, and everybody who's considered using Power BI for SunSystems can generally see the benefits that it can bring to the organization. And it's a tool that is very popular, it's gaining popularity, it's also very available and easy to use. And it brings that sharing and collaboration, great dashboarding capability, drill down reporting, etc. To a very wide audience, and means it can be self-served outside of the finance team, while at the same time providing that sort of great sort of looking capability for board reporting, etc. So bringing that data across from your Infor SunSystems database structure into Power BI is the challenge that we're looking at here. And Power BI itself obviously brings lots to the table. It's the dashboarding, it's a very cost-effective licensing model in that you can roll Power BI out to a broad audience easily, and it's not contained within a finance team, and different roles within the organization can benefit from it in different ways. And really, Power BI is something that we're finding skill sets popping up throughout the organization. There are teams who are using it for certain things, looking at certain systems. There are some individuals who bring Power BI skills to the table and start producing their own data reports. But what we're finding is that when it comes to SunSystems data, there is quite a lot of work that's required to build out, as Chris mentioned, the warehouse, the data warehouse that sits in the background that means you can start producing these Power BI reports. And there's a lot of stalling. People start looking at it, maybe they refer it to the IT team who start looking at it. And once you get down into the data structure, the database connectivity, the controlling of that, there are challenges that pop up that means it stops. We also have a situation where we've got the finance team typically using Infor Q&A, and then maybe other teams start using Power BI, and Infor Q&A is a great tool. It provides really strong ad hoc reporting, spreadsheet controls, etc. So that's the typical product that people are using for that reporting, but it's hard to distribute those reports technically, and it's potentially a different audience that Power BI can work with. So we need to get through those barriers and allow people to start using this great tool that's sitting out there within the business. So the challenges are understanding the Infor SunSystems database schema. You know, SunSystems has a couple of different database structures. We have the domain database, the data database at a technical level, and that's hard to understand. And where do we look for the tables? Which tables are we interested in, and what data do we populate into the warehouse from it? Automating incremental controls and journal updates is hard. To ensure that you've always got the right data set in the warehouse, how often that gets updated, and we don't have overlaps and duplication of data. And then security. So within the Power BI environment, we need to be in a situation where certain teams can see certain data. We don't want to expose data that is potentially having privacy issues, such as payroll data, bank account data, or even interdepartmental data. So we need to be able to translate simply SunSystems data structure and controls into our Power BI controls, so that when you view a report, you only see the data or the reports that are interesting to you. Data summarization, how that can change over time, which business units we look at, which ledgers we look at, which departments we can see. All of these things are simple from a SunSystems perspective, and the finance team has understanding of that. But then when you try to build a model in Power BI, you can be looking at weeks of work trying to work out how to connect it all together. So we want something that instantly fixes that problem. And that's what we're looking at. So if you think about this data structure, for example, we've got multiple databases, we've got many tables, over 300 per business unit in SunSystems in some cases. How that all links together, how we then think about unique keys, which fields link to each other, and why certain data will be interrelated. Yes, you can do it, but it takes time. The incremental updates, journal number, obviously, journal dates, periods, sounds simple. However, when you're populating a warehouse, you need to control the chronology of that, when it occurs. Backposting of journals can be an issue. You need to have unique controls and IDs to understand what data gets scheduled to update into a warehouse. And in order to do this, what we've done is built out, as part of our connector, strong controls around that chronological process, giving unique IDs to transactions that are heading into the warehouse, so that we can then consider properly what's not already come in, even if they're back posted or forward posted, etc., and give that to you instantaneously and out of the box. The complex data structure itself, understanding changes to analysis structure, changes to account structure. When you change something in SunSystems, and let's face it, this is the strength of SunSystems, the ability to use these very core analysis structures to your benefit in reporting, you need that change reflected into your model immediately and easily without having to rebuild it in the background. If you add an extra analysis dimension, use it in a different way, all that needs to be picked up immediately. And that's the strength of PA product in general, that deep integration to Sun and the understanding of that data. And that is exactly the same in the way the connector works. So if you update something, it can immediately be flowing through into your Power BI model, rather than having to refer off to your SQL team or your technical people to start rebuilding that data structure every time. Summarization. We need to be able to control what data goes in, what detailed transactions sit within our warehouse. So we want to be able to drill down where we have summarization by periods, where we have a cutoff start point, bring data in. Now, again, it can all be done, but we want a really simple control that allows end users sitting within that space to just go in and say, okay, this is where I want to start, this is what I want to summarize, and immediately have that flowing through correctly. So we have a way of controlling that. And we're solving all of these challenges with the connector, so that out of the box, within minutes of the installation, you can then start immediately dragging data structures into your Power BI reporting canvas and producing those visualizations and the great reporting that you want. So we have a model that comes with the solution that has all the interlinkages. We just look at that in a little more detail. We're bringing the chart account analysis dimensions into the model, all of your ledger analysis dimensions, fixed asset controls, and if you are an IPOS user, procurement solution, we're also looking to bring the IPOS data in as well, so you can link your procurement together. But that is for the Professional Vantage IPOS solution. However, the other great thing about a warehouse like this is that we can bring other data sources in. That's the power of Power BI. So if you started bringing SunSystems data in using the connector, there's nothing stopping you then adding other data sources into that model and increasing the capability. But out of the box, this is your model that's being provided to you with all the field access and various predefined measures that you can use and increase on those measures if you're a Power BI report user, simply without having to look to the underlying data. We're also bringing in our security management structure and various ancillary controls around that incremental update. So that work's all done for you. It's immediately available out of the box. And we've made this simple to manage. Key is simplicity, end user activity. So we've produced a web interface that comes with our Power BI connector that you can access as an administrator. And in here, it's a very simple tick type option to decide what departments bring through, which analysis you're using, which periods, which ledgers, and all of that is parameterized and controlled and immediately updated into Sun. So if I change some settings in here in terms of what I'm bringing through and how it's working, then I re-extract, it immediately repopulates the data warehouse with the structure that currently exists in Sun based on what I'm after. So it's rinse, repeat, go again and again, change your structure simply, and move forward with all of your correct business units. So that's really what we're doing on the structure, but additionally, we control security. So we have data set security set up within our environment, which means you can build groups of people within the teams, within the organization, and define what access they have in terms of different data sets. And that is then translated for you directly into Power BI row level security. So the security structure within Power BI, if you are a Power BI user, you'll be aware of this, is row level security. And we are, as part of our model, translating the data sets and the groups that we have into that row level security of Power BI, meaning it then controls report access, report visibility, and data access within those visibility areas. And that's a complex area of Power BI. If you start out trying to think about how to build row-level security from scratch within the Power BI environment, that can take quite a time. Whereas if you can translate it directly from your Sun side, that immediately speeds up deployment, speeds up report building and understanding. So Power BI Connect traditionally, as I said, will work for IPOS soon. It allows you to exclude unwanted data, give visibility, speed up the process, and builds out that database for you. Really simple, easy functionality. And licensing for this is based on an annual subscription, so very easy to get up and running immediately for a year, 2 years, keep going. And it's based on the number of rows, data rows that are added to the Power BI warehouse at a maximum in a year. So if you have a certain number of transactions or data rows sitting within the Power BI warehouse and it hits a certain maximum volume in a year, that's how the subscription pricing is based. And the minimum sort of entry level for our standard client base, about £3,000. Obviously, it would depend on the volumes that you're moving into the warehouse in the year. But remembering that you can also control how many years data you're bringing into a warehouse, and this is typical for a reporting solution, how you sit in terms of detail transaction data. Maybe that's just a year or so, maybe a year or so back, you have some summary data, balance data type coming in, period data or departmental balances. And then as you move forward, you drop a year, and it really depends on how you control your reporting and what data you need to see. But it's perfectly within your control as to what's in there and what isn't in there and the data volume you're looking at. But a good, easy, simple entry point for setting up your data warehouse. So that's just a brief summary overview of the solution, and I'm going to hand you over to my colleague Shiv, who's going to show you how the connector works, how that model hangs together, and how easy it is to get up and running with the system. And if you do have any questions what I've said, please do get them into the chat and we can talk about that at the end. So I'm going to hand over to Shiv and he will take on process going forward.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Could you just make me presenter? Perfect. Perfect. Also, you can see my Power BI desktop, Andrew.
We can indeed.
Perfect. That's great. So we'll go straight into the connector. So I've got Power BI opened already, and I've got my connector installed. So what I'm going to do is show you how quickly we can actually get this data into our Power BI desktop itself. So I've just selected the Get Data option, and I'm going to go to Other. And you can see here I've got my PA Power BI connector for SunSystems version 6. If I was using SunSystems version 4, I would then install the version 4 connector, and you see my version 4 connector available. The key thing to note here is that our connectors are trusted connectors, they're signed connectors, so we are a trusted third-party application that is allowed to use the Power BI connector or services. So I'm just going to select that and press connect. So they'll ask me to enter my server name and the database that we're connecting to. So again, because this is a SunSystems version 6 database, we're connected to the SunSystems domain. If we're on Sun 4, we connect to our SunDB or whatever that database is named. So this should now bring up the list of tables available to me from my connector. So if I just click one as an example, you can see it's bringing back my data back from the database. So I will then select as many or as little of the tables I need. So you can see we're covering things like security data, ledger, and all the analysis codes and T codes. So I can then select all the tables I want. And then once I'm happy with all of those that I want to use, I can just press load. So that will then tick away and load all those tables into my Power BI desktop. So I won't do that now because that can take a while depending on the number of transactions in your database. So what I will do now is move over to one I prepared earlier. And here you can see that if I expand the fields here on the right-hand side, I've got all those lists of tables that I showed you earlier from the connector. So this is what the connector actually accelerates you into doing, i.e. you can get all your analysis tables, your F codes, your ledger details, etc. into your Power BI desktop and start creating your visualizations as you require. So you can see here I've got one of my dashboards already created. I'm able to go through and select the various business units, and it will change based on those business units I've selected, depending on what my visualizations are representing. So I've got my actual amount, budget amount, etc. Part of the relationship model that Andrew was discussing earlier is provided for you on the template that we'll be issuing with our connectors. And this is that visualization of that relationship model there. So you can see that in the top area here, if I just scroll up, you can see that I've actually got our chart of account information along here and the relevant account analysis dimensions. We've got our ledger table here along with the relevant ledger analysis dimensions and our fixed assets along the bottom. We've also got some ancillary tables that we've already mapped together and our security data. The beauty of it, as Andrew was mentioning again earlier, is that because it's in the Power BI realm, once you've loaded our template in and got this relationship model into your Power BI desktop, you can actually add additional data sources into this relationship model and start connecting those all up together. So I've got additional fields here, along with some key measures which are part of the Power BI structure, so you can start calculating, creating your own measures and calculations. So what I want to do is take you through how easy it is to actually start creating your visualization. So because I've got my data already here on the right hand side, I can start dragging or selecting various of the visualizations and enter details based on that. So I'm just going to go to my ledger, set for my ledger definitions, and I'm going to set my ledger code. You'll see that will bring back my ledger codes from my database. And let's get that ledger code name also. It's now giving us some detail from there. I now want to see an amount next to those. So if I go to my key measures, I've already got a key measure called amount created. If I select amount, you can see that's now bringing in my amount field here as well. But on this table, it doesn't actually tell me which business unit or anything it's related to. So I'm going to create a slicer and enter my business unit information here. So I'll select from my business unit list or database code if you're in SunSystems 4 and add that visual. So you can now see that I've got my available business units. And if I was to cycle through these and change them around, you can see that it's actually updating and connected to my ledger table along the bottom, depending on what data I have available. So that's how quickly you can get up and running once you've actually got your tables in to your Power BI desktop. You can start creating your visualizations very, very quickly. And once you've got your tables in, you're then in the Power BI realm. So you can do all your normal Power BI work within the Power BI desktop. So whether you want to create multiple visualizations based on separate business units or actually an overall report or data dashboard based on your overall business units. Also, as part of the install, we do have our admin module. So this is a Blazor-based web application that allows you to administer which business units are available in the Power BI desktop, and you can select that based on those ledgers that you have in each business unit. So along the top left, we can see my business units. I've got my SDC business unit. I can see which account I'm logged in with. If I go to my business unit tab it will show me which ledgers I have available. So at the moment, looking at this as an overview, you can see that I've actually got my actuals ledger as active, my B ledger budgets active, and my commitments ledger is active as well. If I wanted to change any of those, I can quickly select edit and remove that from being active and save. Once I refresh this, that would then apply onto my Power BI desktop, and that would then remove the commitments ledger from being available for this business unit. I can easily add new business units. So if I remove this for now for demo purposes and then select add, I can add that business unit back in and then re-enter which ledgers I want to be active. If I need to change a business unit, I have my list of available business units. So these are all the business units available to me based on my configuration and system setup for Power BI. I can select what is required. So for now, I'm going to select my actuals ledger and make that active. Along the right-hand side here, as Andrew was mentioning previously, this is where we can configure our warehouse and what do we want to add to the warehouse from our database and what do we want to summarize on. So to summarize any of these, let's say I want to summarize this based on my T0 value. So all my transactions summarized on T0. I just need to press edit and select T0. Also, if I want to add T2 or T3, they can just easily be selected and saved. Against the actuals ledger, we can also include archive data. So if you want to include archive data into your visualizations and your warehousing, that can be done as well. So you just need to select that box. That is only available against your actuals ledger. So I'll press save on that for now. And we've got our actuals ledger being warehoused now on T0, T2, and T3. So at the moment, there's no cutoff period applied. That means we're bringing in every piece of data up to our current period. If I want to summarize that on a previous period, let's say I want to summarize it on period 12/2021, I can press apply and then update that. That will give me a warning to say that I'm going to be performing some data warehousing steps. I'll select yes to that. And depending on the number of transactions, that will then add that summarized data to my warehouse based on the period I have selected. Everything after that period will then be at a detailed transactional level. So that is your business unit setup. So you can add as many or as little of those ledgers as you need within this area. We've then got some parameter information here where it just shows you what database you're connecting to. You can select the number of periods you want to use in your data warehousing. So whether using 12 or 13, that can be selected. And we've got the number of design rows. So this is good if you're creating your visualizations in Power BI Desktop and you don't want to be bringing back millions of transactions. You can decide how many transactions you want to bring in while you're in that modeling process. So if you're just creating your models and you're just testing it out, you don't want to be bringing back all those transactions into your data. So that would actually slow down your modeling process or the creation of your dashboards. So you can reduce the number of rows that are being brought in just for modeling purposes. We've then got our business unit security or our security tab. Again, this is controlled at a ledger level. So I'm able to add or remove whichever ledgers I want to based on where I want security to be applied. So just based on what I have on screen at the moment, you can see that my security is being applied at the actuals ledger. I can select for it to be applied against my chart of accounts, and I can also select if I want to apply it to any of my T codes. So if I just press save on that, that now shows us that we are applying the security, whether it's row level or data set security, that will be applied against the chart of accounts for my actuals ledger and against T0. Again, that can be added to as many or as little as your ledgers as required. We've then got some reference tables. So this was going to show me our users. So this will show us which users I have got, which groups assigned to them. So which data set groups they are assigned to, what restrictions do they have. On the flip side, we've got the groups. So if I select on the security group here, my STC project 1, I can see which users are linked to that group. So these are just purely representations of the data security model in place, so that if you maybe have a Power BI administrator who doesn't have access to create those security restrictions, but actually has permissions to create the visualizations, they can use these options here as a reference area to actually see what data people are either restricted to or have access to. Therefore, they don't need to be going into different parts of the system to actually have a look at it. They can just have a quick visual representation of it from this front screens. So that is the Power BI admin module. So we'll flick back into my Power BI desktop visualization. And because we've tried to create this as an accelerator, we've kept the naming convention the same. So what I mean by that is when we're looking at the tables itself, we've tried to keep any additional tables that we've created. So like anything with a key is the additional columns that we've had to create in the data set so that we can then deal with those incremental refreshes. So we've kept them as similar to what you'd know if you need a Sun data. So for that, it makes creating your own measures and the incremental refresh is very easy. So what I'm going to do now is create a quick new key measure for our commitment amount. And then we're going to add that onto our visualization. So you're able to use the normal Power BI functionality to create additional measures. So what I'm going to do now is create my commitment amount measure. And you have all the tools available to you within Power BI. So you can use the standard calculate options and start creating the key measure. So because we've kept the naming convention the same, it should be very easy to start building this up. I'm just now going to pick up my ledger definitions table. And I want to pick up my C ledger to create my commitment. So if I now enter the C code, I can now close that. And that will update my key measures on the right hand side. I've got a bit of an error, but I can sort that out shortly. As usual, good live demos. Let's have a quick look. Let's apply that change. And then still throwing up an error, but I can resolve that after. And I can then add that to my visualization. Let's just select a different amount for now. So I'll add another budget amount just to show you that example. That will then add that to your visualization. So it's very quick and easy to get up and running to actually show those details, those measures, and any of the additional fields that we've brought in via our connector. So from a demo perspective, I think that's everything that I wanted to cover. So I'll hand back over now to Andrew.
Thank you, Shiv. So I think that obviously what you're seeing here is just how quickly and easily it is to bring data into your Power BI environment and start using it in an effective fashion. And really that last area where we're building a report could be something that you can take on yourself if you have Power BI skills. It could be someone where your partner can support you in deploying these reports. So those Power BI skills are something that you can start utilizing without having to worry about the underlying data connectors. And as you saw from what Shiv was saying there, the actual data field visibility, the data field terminology is something that's understandable. You can start talking about your C ledger, your budget ledger, talking about your analysis codes in the way that you do within your SunSystems environment. So applying your Power BI reporting skills or those sources of those skills is easy, because you don't have to think about what an individual data field means, or something that sits within the database that doesn't have that human sense to the field. So what we're trying to do is to give you something that makes sense from a financial point of view, from a SunSystems terminology point of view, and immediately can be used by someone who has that domain expertise within the Power BI reporting. And to get this up and running, really you're looking at a very quick installation. We can run the installation within a few hours, maybe half a day or so, to get some testing and make sure it's all working, and give you that immediate capability, which can save you an inordinate amount of time. So that sort of pretty much brings me to the close on what we were going to talk about here, but I'll hand you back over to Chris, just in case we have any questions. Anyone's got anything they would like to ask, and still, please, if you do have anything, please get it into the chat now, and we can come back on those questions. So maybe over to Chris.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you, Shiv, for that. So I'm just sitting here imagining all of you Power BI experts out there looking at how you could create your dashboards and apply your own styles, your own designs, working with your finance teams to determine what information needs to be shared across the organization, and in the comfort of knowing that you've still got full security across that the data set that you're sharing. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. It's that was very informative. Are there any questions from the audience this morning?
Hi folks, it's actually Paul from KIC. I just wanted to pick up on what Andrew said there about implementation and things. So yeah, it is about a half day to install and set up, but there's more time required for that. So again, Shiv, you might want to just go through that a little bit, but it's about agreeing what information, training the users how to use it. It's nice and simple, but you've got to be trained how to use this. And it's about deciding what information you want to bring across. So in the early examples that we've done, we're between 2 and 3 days in total, and that includes the training, the design, the configuration, and making sure that the output is where people want to be. Would that be about right, Shiv?
Yeah, I mean, just to get up and running and take you through the admin console and show you how to actually start creating the data set security and having access to the browser admin, we could get that up and running, I'd say, in a day. If you then need further assistance in terms of helping create visualizations, etc., or creating that data set security groups, that can then be, depending on the complexity of those, can be a couple of days as well. But it does depend on how much assistance you guys would actually need if you don't have those Power BI skills in-house. But it should be, like I said, an accelerator, so it should be there. If you've got those skills in-house, you should then be able to, after the first day, be up and running.
Perfect. Cheers, Shiv. Thank you very much indeed. Back to you, Chris.
Okay. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat session. So hopefully that means it's all very clear, easily understood. You'll just be desperate now to get your hands on it.
I think that one question that has come up in other sessions we've done, which is quite an important one, is supported capability here, in that you are looking at a solution which actually is a maintained solution as you move forward with new versions of SunSystems and changes to structures in there, etc., new operating system requirements, SQL versions, etc. The connector is fully maintained, so that would mean you'll be entitled to move forward with upgrades, any changes that will be applied, any extra capabilities that come in, and we are already looking at extra capabilities in the next release in terms of bringing further IPOS data in, further controls around pausing, for example. So how do you manage moving around between periods? So do you need to sort of pause your reporting structure for a couple of weeks while you close the period, then move on, that sort of thing? That's coming into the next iteration, which will be due out very soon. So, there are going to be continuous developments here. So in taking on the connector, you're gaining that confidence that there's always a path forward. It's never going to be sort of leaving you behind in terms of your SunSystems, and indeed not having to refer back to internal teams for extra and changes and redevelopment of anything you do against it without a connector, so it's giving you that confidence. So that was a question that's certainly come up a number of times in discussion so far with clients.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point, Andrew. And I think I should add that it also supports, all the versions of Sun. So if you're on Sun 4, it works for you. If you're on Sun 6, absolutely. And it's available now. Not something we're saying, come back to 2 or 3 weeks or months. It's available now for you. If you want to get a proposal or quote on the solution, just email myself or Paul, and we'll be delighted to get it out to you as quickly as we can. Paul, do you have any additional comments to say before we just wrap up this morning?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to come on board. Good session today. There's over 29 people, excuse me, 29 clients came on, which is fantastic. So I really appreciate your time to come and have a look at this. As Chris alluded to, if you want further information, please contact Chris or I directly. We'll get that over to you straight away. And I believe there is a recording of this. So if you want to share this with colleagues or talk to anybody, just let us know, and we can get the copy of the recording sent over to you as well. So once again, thank you very much for your time. Thanks again to PA. Thanks for Chris. And we look forward to progressing the Power BI connector with you all in the near future. Thanks, folks. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you very much indeed.
Yep, you'll deserve a coffee now. You can have them on me. Take care. Speak to you again soon.
Thanks, folks.